What's up, lovers of whiskey and watchers of YouTube? I am the Malt activist, and today I am going to share with you 3 independently bottled whiskeys which are way better than the original. Which whiskey am I talking about? It is, of course, the Caol Ila 12-year-old. Before we begin, I just want to give a big shout out to our first-time viewers. Thank you for clicking through to that thumbnail. It means you liked something on this channel. If whiskey stuff and cool things and rants and raves and information and how to save money on whiskey, if that's your thing, then consider subscribing and sharing or liking or leaving a comment or whatever it is that you feel comfortable doing. This is 2025. I don't force anything on anybody. To my returning viewers, thank you for keeping your standards so low. You guys are the wind beneath my wings. Let's get on with the show. So I've been having this debate for a very, very long time, which is independent bottles versus original bottles. Now, for those of you who don't know what an original and independent is, very simply, an original bottling is a whiskey that comes from the distillery, right? Like this whiskey, for example, or this bottle. This Caol Ila 12 has been released by the Caol Ila Distillery under the auspices of Diageo, and so this qualifies as an original bottle, right? That's what we call an original bottle. On the other hand, an independent bottle would be something like this, for example. Now this here is a 10-year-old Caol Ila bottled by Signatory Vintage. Right, sorry, bottled by Signatory Bottlings. This is part of their vintage series. This is a 10-year-old. So basically what happens, right? This is how it works. For those of you who don't know, I'll do a very quick sort of run through of original bottle versus independent bottle, right? So original bottle, released by the distillery, distilled at the distillery, matured under the responsibility or the ownership of said distillery, bottled by said distillery, and distributed by said distillery, right? So everything has to be the accountability and responsibility of the distillery with the name on the label, right? So in this case, our Caol Ila 12, right? Distilled at Caol Ila Distillery, matured maybe at Caol Ila Distillery or wherever, but matured under the responsibility and accountability, bottled by them, distributed by them, priced by them, everything is done by them, right? Qualifies as an original bottle. Now, if I take this as an example, right, this Signatory Vintage 10-year-old Caol Ila, now, there's many ways of doing this, but probably Signatory, the independent bottler, they purchased a cask from Caol Ila. They kept it could have been with Caol Ila or in their warehouses, it's up to them, but the responsibility of that spirit now belongs to Signatory because they bought that cask and that spirit, right? Ultimately, the bottling is then the responsibility of the independent bottler, in this case Signatory. The pricing is the responsibility of Signatory, and the ultimate distribution of said bottle is the responsibility of Signatory, right? And therefore that whiskey then qualifies as an independent bottling. That's right. Original spirit purchased from the distillery by an independent concern that then decided to do whatever the hell they wanted to do with that whiskey. For example, like bottling this at 10 years old, choosing a Oloroso sherry cask. I'll get into the maturation, but independent bottlers can even re-rack their whiskeys, you know, their warehouse guys or whoever their whiskey maker or whatever, I don't know what they're called, to be honest. If that person decides, okay, I have this whiskey in a bourbon barrel, I think it would do really well if I put it in a sherry cask for another 2 years and then bottle it, well, that's up to the person that owns, or the company that owns that spirit. In our case, Signatory over here. So everything is then becomes the responsibility of the independent bottler, right? Which means if the whiskey is great, well, then they get the kudos. And if the whiskey is shit, well, they bear the brunt of it. So I hope this very sort of brief explanation tells you the difference between original and independent. Why independent? Why not just buy the original? Well, here's a few things, right? Number one, sometimes you get bored. Like I got bored. Like, I mean, look behind me. There's probably 80%, maybe even 90% original bottlings in my shelf behind me. And I got to a point where I was like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to buy that same whiskey over and over again? Because original bottlings, especially of the core range, they don't really tend to add variety to your whiskey drinking experience, right? How many Caol Ila 12s am I going to buy, right? Not many. Maybe one, and then maybe a few years later I'll buy another one, perhaps, so I get bored. And so what you look for is a different drinking experience, right? So would I ever get an 8-year-old Caol Ila from the distillery? I don't know, but I know I can get it from Signatory here, right? Isn't that interesting? Can I get a 9-year-old Caol Ila from the distillery? Probably not. But I can get this really cool looking bottle that I picked up from the Whisky Exchange, right? Very different maturations as well. Would I ever get a Caol Ila from the distillery that is more than 60% ABV? I don't think so, but can I get it? And I get it from this bottle, which is bottled at 60.3%? Yeah! So what does this do, right? This allows me as a consumer to find whiskeys matured in a different way with kind of different provenance, kind of different recipes and pedigrees, of distilleries that I really like. And I do want to caveat this video. I'm caveating 20 minutes into this rant. I want to caveat that Caol Ila is my #1 favorite distillery in the whole world. I love that spirit. It is by far my favorite whiskey to drink, straight up, right? But the reason it has become my favorite is not only that the Caol Ila distillery makes some very good whiskeys, like their Fèis Isles are, their festival releases every year are just absolutely gorgeous most of the time. But the real reason I fell in love with Caol Ila is through the independent bottlers that took that beautiful distillate and then, with amazing cask management and the right time to bottle it at the right strength, and a combination of all these things, I think it really further elevated Caol Ila, in my opinion, in my eyes, as a whiskey that I wanted to pursue and find different recipes and flavors to drink from, Yeah, so that's definitely one of the very main reasons why I would at least choose independent bottles versus original bottles, right? Variety. The second, probably also very important to a lot of my viewers and definitely to me, is also the price point. A lot of these independent bottles come in at a much lower price than the original bottles, right? Which means they pack more value. I think they taste different, if not always better, in my opinion. And they just, make for a very different drinking experience. But of course, price also plays a very big role in people selecting independent bottlings. And there's a lot of independent bottlers out there that are very economical. They're not overpriced. Like, for example, Caol Ilas are becoming overpriced because they are run by Diageo. It's as simple as that. Diageo, so, the CFO at Diageo is going around looking at the sort of growth in consumption of whiskeys around the world. At least they were in the last 10-15 years, and going, yep, I think we can add another 15% to the retail price and sell it for definitely a lot more. And that's what's been steadily happening. Now, when you compare that to some independent bottles, those prices need not be that sky high, right? And so you get some very interesting pricing as well. Though the only downside of buying independent bottlings is that they're almost always very limited run. So if you do like a specific type of independent bottled whiskey, you know, you drunk it, you loved it, and you decided, oh, you know, after 6 months or 8 months or a year, you know what, I think I'm gonna go get myself another one of these. Chances are you're not gonna find it, which can be kind of irritating. So that is definitely one thing that you have to contend with, which is, yeah, this might be the only bottle you ever buy of that particular expression, and then after that it's gone because those runs are so limited. So that's the only downside I see, but I think it more than makes up for it by offering variety and sometimes very, very decent pricing. So anyway, so I think I've rambled on too much. I have with me 3 whiskeys, which you've just seen, 3 different Caol Ilas that I want to compare to the core range 12-year-old and see where the independent ones really, really stand out. Okay, sounds good? Let's do this. Okay, so let's start with this Caol Ila, right? This is a 12-year-old Caol Ila. This is part of the core range. And for those of you who don't know, almost, I think 70-80% of Caol Ila goes into Johnnie Walker, the blend. And so their single malt bottles are very well sought after, right? And this 12-year-old, first let me tell you something. Very, very good whiskey. I think a really, really nice whiskey. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Let me tell you something about it. So yes, matured for 12 years, as you can proudly see on this label. Okay, I hope I have that in focus. I do. Matured in refill American hogshead and bourbon barrels. Okay, so primarily very bourbon matured. Very good nose, very buttery, very, very citrusy, lots of lemon, lots of soft, warm lemon and buttery. It's very, very buttery. I don't know why it's so buttery, but it is buttery. Yes, that nutty butter just sticks out, and it's one of my favorite flavor profiles. However, 3 things that I don't appreciate about this whiskey. Number 1. It's probably chill filtered. Chances are it's chill filtered. It's a very high probability that it's chill filtered, right? So to me, that compromises on the mouthfeel, and I'm not a big fan of chill filtration. The other thing is probably, and most probably, very high probability that this is also lightly colored. Now, I don't know why you'd want to color a bourbon matured whiskey. Like, what is the point? It doesn't matter if it's light or slightly dark or whatever it is. Nobody gives a shit, you know. And I think I'm not a big fan of that, but apparently it's a Diageo policy. They all color their whiskeys. They colored the Lagavulin as well. Can you believe that? Oh, the travesty. So very, very high probability that it's colored. Very, very high probability that it's chill filtered. Both no-nos in our books, if you follow the channel. And the other thing is, this is the core range, and bottled at a very, 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 very measly, in my opinion, 43%. Bottled at 43%. Now that's not a good strength, man. 43% is for babies. Babies drink 43% for breakfast, and I'm not a big fan of this. Definitely not. So very, very low ABV, chill filtered, colored, and then on top of that, this is about 56 pounds. Yeah, 56 pounds on a normal sort of online website. 56 pounds, I think, is a lot of money to pay for a whiskey that is a stock whiskey. It's, you know, part of the core range. It's low ABV, colored, chill filtered. You want to pay 56 pounds for that? I'm not a huge fan of that, even though it does taste very, very nice. I'm not going to take away from that fact. So yeah, those things I'm not a big fan of, and so that's why I never buy original bottles from Caol Ila unless they are part of the festival release and come in different shapes and sizes, and you know. So yeah, that's why no. decent whiskey, but everything else, not so good about it. What can we get as an alternative? That's right. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Let's start. Let's start with this Signatory vintage 8-year-old Caol Ila. Now I have with me an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 10-year-old at different sizes. When I say sizes, I mean at different ABVs, at different maturations, at different ages, and at different price points. Which, isn't that cool already? Right? You have the same whiskey generally. It's come from the same barley and it's gone through the same stills, and the same guy, this distillery manager or whoever it is, he's got a hand in this. But now I have 3 different whiskeys to try, you know? Okay, so full transparency, I'll tell you 2 of these whiskeys I got from the whiskeybarrel.com. By the way, no affiliation, no sponsorship, nothing. I'm just telling you where to get these from. So 2 of these I picked up from the whiskeybarrel.com. I'll link the website under it, and if you find it, go buy it. And this one I bought from the Whisky Exchange, but this one I got directly from the store actually. I went to the Covent Garden store and picked this up while I was in the UK a month or so ago. Okay, so what do we know about this whiskey? So this is an 8-year-old whiskey. It's part of their 100 proof series. So Signatory Vintage came out with a series called the 100 proof, which essentially means all their whiskeys are bottled at 57.1% ABV. That's right, massive ABV over here. I love that. 57.1% ABV, which is 100 imperial proof. Is it imperial proof? Oh, whatever, it's 100 proof. I don't want to get into this shit. And this is a mix of first fill Oloroso sherry butts and hogsheads. First fill Oloroso sherry and a mix of hogshead, so a mix of bourbon and Oloroso. And this is distilled in 2015 and probably bottled in 2023 or 24, making it about 8 years old, roughly. Well, not roughly, it has to be minimum 8 years old. And this is bottle number, 4,581. So, by the way, you know how I said that normally they have very limited runs? Well, this one seems to have a very decent run of 4,581 bottles at least. I'm guessing maybe 6,000 bottles came out of this. So, and you know the best part? I got this whiskey for £42, 30 pence from the Whiskey Barrel. £42. So exactly 13, 14 pounds cheaper than the 12-year-old. I get it. Yes, it is a younger whiskey, but tastes so much better, bigger flavor profile, super high ABV. So you're getting, you're getting extra whiskey anyway. And it's a mix of sherry and it's a mix of bourbon. You're not going wrong with that, are you? You can't go wrong with this. So at £42, 30 pence, an 8-year-old Caol Ila at 100 proof or 57.1% ABV, a mix of Oloroso sherry butts and hogshead barrels. Absolutely gorgeous. This is, if you can find this, buy it. I've drunk it, not a lot. I'm gonna drink a bit more, but it's very, very good. You should definitely try it. So this was our 8-year-old. Our next whiskey is this 9-year-old. I fell in love with this label. Whisky Exchange did this series called the Seasons, which is really nice. And so I was at the Covent Garden store, Whisky Exchange over there, and I saw this really, really cool label. It had apple and the cinnamon and the mushroom for some reason. I don't know where the mushrooms have come from, but it's there. This is a 9-year-old and bottled at 60.3% ABV. That's right. The Whisky Exchange is not fucking around, if you ask me. And this is a first fill bourbon barrel. A first fill bourbon barrel. And it says cask number 808, which means this is a single cask whiskey. I'm guessing it couldn't have produced more than 200, 250 bottles max. I don't think it could have done more than that, because I'm guessing if this is a first fill bourbon barrel, you're looking at about 225, 250 liters worth of alcohol to begin with, and after 9 years, I don't think you're getting more than 200 plus bottles out of this. So definitely, this is one of the limited runs. Single, and look at the color, man. This is real. This is real. This is non-chill filtered, no coloring added. And this is distilled on 28th April 2014, bottled on 23rd November 2023. And there you can see those details. And that is what I also love about independent bottles, is that they will give you all the information. There is full-on transparency, which I really, really appreciate. You know, I really appreciate that. I know the provenance of this whiskey down to everything. I know the barrels, I know the filling date, I know the bottling date, I know the cask strength, the strength, whatever. I know everything about this whiskey. And that, for me, makes it a much more enjoyable drinking experience. And by the way, this one is outstanding. The only problem is I checked online on the whiskeyexchange.com and it shows out of stock. Now, if it's available in the store, I don't know, maybe you can go check it out. But it's, it's not available online though. But this one is one of the more expensive ones. This one was actually 75 pounds, so 20 pounds more expensive than the 12-year-old, which I know what you're going to say, but you know, who's gonna pay for this label? You are. Nothing I can do about it. But yes, I drunk this. This is the first fill bourbon whiskey. Oh. Jeez, look at the color. Look at this color. This color comes from a first fill bourbon. That means how good was that cask? You know what I'm saying? So yes, bit on the expensive side, but definitely something worth getting your hands on. If you're ever in the store at the Whisky Exchange, find it. Find it. Bit expensive though, in my opinion. But hey. Now the third one I have is this 10-year-old. It is also part of the Signatory Vintage series. This is also a mix of Oloroso sherry and bourbon casks. This is a 10-year-old, vintage 2013, so I'm guessing bottled sometime in 2024. This is the least ABV of the three, by the way. This is at 48.2% ABV, so still higher, 5.2% higher than the original bottle. So definitely a bit of a kick there. A bit younger and at about exactly the same price as the 12-year-old. But this is also non-chill filtered, no coloring added, at a decent strength of 48.2%. It has, you know the provenance, it's a 2013 vintage. It says from Pitlochry to the world. Again, very, very, very good whiskey, and a mix of Oloroso and bourbon cask. So, see what I mean? You know, you get that same whiskey at birth, and then different people mold it in different ways, and then you get your hands on it, and then you try it, and you're like, wow, this is a very different drinking experience. And you know, it opens up this whole new world. So my purpose today wasn't to just be like, hey, these whiskeys are better than that whiskeys. No, it was to tell you, if you haven't already, go out, find yourself some independent whiskeys, right? Forget buying original bottles for a while. Save some money, find a new drinking experience. I think you'll be very, very pleasantly surprised. Right? Like, just on this one whiskey alone, I was able to find three alternatives which were vastly different price points, different recipes, different experiences, you know, just for that one whiskey alone. So imagine the world that's waiting for you outside of the original bottles. You know what I mean? Wow. So yeah, so you tell me, let's do this, right? Let me know in the comments which whiskey you think has better independent options available. I'd love to take a look at those. I have a few that are lying just behind the camera over there that I'm looking at right now, which I can share with you at some point as well. So yeah, man, go find yourself some cool independent bottles and tell me about it. I'm very curious. I'll go and find some for myself as well. All right, man. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was a bit educational, a bit fun. I hope you learned something. If not, who gives a shit, man? It's whiskey. Drink it, enjoy it, drink it responsibly. Have it with your friends, have fun. I've already said a lot. All right, man. Good seeing you, man. I'm the Malt activist. Until next time, peace.